welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. In Mendham, it's a little buggy today. Nerves, unsettled, uncomfortable. Happens. So, might not be a long video. Who knows? See how it goes. Just happens, So I've had it for years, just out of nowhere. All of a sudden, everything's not so good for no good reason. I mean, there's good reasons to be uncomfortable, but I don't have any immediate good reason. It's just some sort of whiplash from something earlier or some other little trigger. It just points out the danger of being alive. Is being alive or making somebody who's going to be alive means you're subjecting them to the risk that they have one of these conditions, vertigo or malnumar or whatever, some kind of weakness or vulnerability that will make their life troublesome, difficult, and struggly, and very struggly. Versus just regular amounts of struggle. And clearly not a great idea to make things vulnerable to periods of, discomfort, mental angst, trauma. Oh, we don't need this. Yes, we don't. Totally superfluous. So the few new images, but really haven't. The camera has flunked out on me. My $12 camera. It was already broken. Just a bad screen. Some other, But now doesn't. Well, anyway, it's very. You can fiddle with it and get it to do something, but you don't know what it's doing. So some of the pictures I took are actually now a video, where even when the camera worked, it didn't have this feature where I could pause a video for a day and then connect a new video to it and just make a continuous. And it's a feature the camera doesn't have, but it has it now, which is quite interesting. So I'll see if I can exploit that feature. But the trick is you can't tell when you're hitting the buttons. You don't know what's happening. Anyway, it's a triviality. Probably not worth mentioning. Probably shouldn't have mentioned it. But anyway. So, the theme for this week was evolution. Just thinking about, there was a dead raccoon, with the maggots and all that stuff. And so that always gives you some perspective, that you're just a few feet away from, being there, feeling his not existence, but just the indignity of it. And not that I need an excuse to think about it. There's always some little crap going on with animals, it's whatever. It's just, look, there's all this talk doesn't really have to take place because the evidence is so glaring in the sense that it's in the theory of evolution itself. Every butterfly is covered with little parasites and mites eating it alive. Lots of, oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, it's not really beautiful. It's a terrible, blighty game being played. And most of it is just horribly exploitionist in the sense of it's, if the shark doesn't eat you, then the little, whatever they are, little borers, little worms worm their way into you. It's just this, it's horrible nature, And so, people just do this, well, it gives me a boner thing. And it doesn't matter how gross it is because you're just made to, pretty green. And I feel the same thing. I look at things and I say, well, the aesthetics. Like, the flower has some bug holes in it there, so that's not too good. It ruins the aesthetics. But the cleaner flower, oh, clean and pretty and blah, 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 blah. Our brains do this, imposing an opinion on what we're perceiving. And some of those opinions are just subjective. They're just, ooh, a hole. Ooh, 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 ooh. They're just subjective, mechanical, reflexive responses. They're just Beavis and Butthead reactions. They don't have anything to do with recognizing what's actually taking place, and how not pleasant this war that's going on. This is a battlefield, and even a battlefield can look very pretty, right? When the British used to have their little wars in the old days, and they would march all pretty and drum all pretty and everything's all pretty until the cannon starts blowing people's heads off and shit, and it gets quite ugly very fast. And it's nothing, we can aesthetically fall into the trap of saying pretty, but it's a lie, and we can know that. So I'm just saying this isn't anything profound, and you're saying, well, why don't people, regular people, have any pause? Why don't, when they see this frog halfway down the snake's throat, and when they see these things, why doesn't it just give them a sense of pause? Maybe I shouldn't think this is all so swell. Maybe I should think about all the human beings living in horrible conditions, and not very well off, and not in very good condition, and bad habits, bad psychologies, all kinds of drama, and say, ooh, maybe this isn't such a great thing we're doing here. Not a big deal to concede the point that it's at minimum seems pretty dangerous. One minute you're doing just fine, the next minute, the guy runs you over in the street and breaks your legs, or whatever other trauma has that throws you halfway down the snake's mouth. And who wants to play this game? And it's not going to have anything to do, well, I guess people think they have control. I mean, there's lots of psychology like that, and you can see it's sort of been exposed by, I guess, some element of modern society has brought out a lot of these neuroses, with the compulsive disorders. And those compulsive disorders are just a symptom of people clinging to control. Some sort of voodoo. They want a magic that will allow them to control. So they're basically wagering with the world. I will flip the light switch off 10 times in a row, and that means I won't get cancer. They're doing some sort of bargaining with the system, as if you can bargain with it, as if we can control something, and we can't. But it gives them the sense of it and the comfort of having some mechanism to do something, to play a game, to have some kind of game to play, some kind of game that makes sense to play. Make a deal. Let's make a deal. Well, life really isn't let's make a deal. It's, it has some elements of it in the sense that you can do certain minimums. You can try to keep your health and maintain yourself and not do something preposterously stupid and all that. You can have some control, but you can't have the necessary amount of control. You can't eliminate the possibilities of these horrible things happening. And without freedom from them, it's like doing the tightrope without the net. It's very intimidating. It's always going to be work that way, because you can never feel comfortable. You can never feel free and unbound by the burden of wondering, was I careful enough? Did I think about it long enough? Am I smart enough? Am I strong enough? Am I, the doubt will erode any pleasure you can get out of it, and in some sense your very functionality will be compromised by your apprehensions and your inhibitions. It's like a lot of comics can't be funny unless they're drunk or stoned or whacked in some way. So they're distracted from their usual inhibitions, their usual paranoia, and can play a better game. But it's a false game. It's not living real, because reality is that we should be paranoid, we should be afraid, we should be cautious and worried and fretful. But there's a whole bunch of people. The idiocracy says no to that. No, 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 no. You're doing it wrong. Making a mess is fun. Pouring gasoline on the kittens, and then playing with matches. That's a great game. I mean, the cats don't always catch fire. Sometimes it works out okay. It brightens their eyes. The fumes. Gives them a little perkiness. Just it really is that bad. I mean, this system is horrible. The whole struggle, the whole get attached to love things so you can watch them deteriorate and die, and watch them be degraded and lose all dignity entirely. Everything that was important to them is all of a sudden completely unimportant. It's like a lot of people, when they get old, they spend their whole life scrimping for every nickel and dime, screwing people over for $5, doing all kinds of things to gain their fortune. And then they get old, and all of a sudden they're pissing away the money, on nurses and daycare and diapers and all this, and they're pissing it away like it's just, there's such an irony to it that in a snap of their fingers in their 88th year, they're spending more money, than they spent hours and hours and hours trying to save, by cutting their own lawn or doing this or doing that. I mean, all the work they did, and just all gets pissed away. So that's way tangential. But it's just part of this psychology problem, because this really, the human race just isn't up to philosophy. It's really stuck in doing psychology. So a lot of this needs to be done in pantomime. It needs to be done in theater. So last week's video, the Gavolt guy posted a link to the whatever it's called, the Silver Express or something, the something Express. So it's this little movie, half-hour movie or whatever it is, of some guy saves a guy from jumping in front of a train, and then the guy who was going to jump in front of the train sort of explains philosophically how you didn't do me a favor, shithead. So it's a very negative theme underlying it. Negative in the sense that it's not full of this phony and fake pretense of it's all going to be okay and it's all happily ever after. Again, it should be a giveaway. Every single fairy tale doesn't tell the truth. I mean, clearly, obviously the characters aren't real and the storylines are often preposterous. But I just mean there's absolutely no connection to reality when you do this happily ever after thing. Because that's not what it's going to be. It'll be a few years of happiness, and then the marriage starts falling apart, and the interests are disputed, and they get divorced, and it all gets very messy, and all the finger pointing and all the other crap, and then they get older, they get cancer, or they get something else, and it just gets ugly. It's not happily ever after. It's just wait till you get yours. Enjoy it while you can, because it's going to slip through your fucking fingers. How many people end up with a life that slipped through their fingers? where their own kids are throwing them in the nursing home. You know, when they've had the conversation 20 years earlier about how, don't throw me in a nursing home, you little fucker. And yeah, that's what ends up happening. They end up getting shafted and tossed because they're just too big a pain in the ass, too expensive, too hard to manage. How many people does this life thing, you know, whatever they have, just gone? They don't even get a graceful exit, let alone happily ever after. So I mean, it's always going to be an end. The story's over, you know, for everyone, and a lot of times the story ends really shitty, and still people keep hyping this crap, even though they see it over and over again. They see the old man or woman in the wheelchair drooling on themselves and shitting their pants. Where am I? I have to get to work. Blah, 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 blah. They see this shit. They say, oh, hey, great. That's going to be, I can't wait till I'm in that chair doing that fun stuff. Breaking your hip, just rolling over in bed. Oh, yeah, that's so cool. I can't wait. I mean, fuck. So this isn't about an argument. This isn't about having to pile up a big pile of evidence. No, I mean, everybody's tasted this. This isn't, you don't have to have ALS, or you don't have to be blighted by, you know, a life of diabetes or some other, you know, misery. You don't have to be blind, you know, to understand that this is a dangerous game we're playing. And we're playing it from the advantaged position. You know, we have a lot of benefits, morphine and, you know, lots of antibiotics and lots of stuff to give us some control. So we're not totally at the mercy of the system. We can make it a little bit deservy, a little bit. But it's just so far from good enough. And to impose it on something, to sit there and roll those dice saying, I'm going to take a chance with your welfare. Here comes the dice. You know. And even under the best of circumstances, again, even people who have great lives can have just plain horrible deaths, and the whole thing is just flushed. All they built out of their life is just ruined, you know, by the preposterously bad ending. I've seen that. I've seen people live very long lives, and I'm quite certain if you pose the question to them, to have your 98 years of good stuff, you have to relive those 7 years of bad stuff. And they'd say, fuck you. I'm not doing that again. You know. And so all these people hyping this thing again. I've made this simple argument. You all haven't done that yet. You haven't done your, how do I end my story? You know, how desperate am I going to be? How bad will the symptoms of degrade and death be? How awful will I experience it? You know, what will be my version of the death? You haven't done it yet, and you're selling it. You know, which is, again, it's just so arrogant. You're saying, how can people be so obnoxious in the face of what has to be, even from their standards, they have to recognize this stuff as real horror? Are they pretending that the misery they see in the eyes of the people they've known who've died, and the pain and the anguish they've watched them go through, are they really stupid enough to think, oh yeah, I'm going to do that so much better because I'm really going to have fun? You know, I'm really going to enjoy chemo. Yeah, unlike that asshole complaining through the whole thing. I mean, come on. How can you sell something when you haven't even done it? And you still have no humility? None. They have absolutely no humility, no fear, no rational apprehension when they're imposing it on somebody else. They're not rolling dice. It's not their own nuts that are going to get crushed, and they go ahead and they play the risk because it's fun for them. It's fun for them to enjoy the delusion that it's all green and fluffy and blue and oh, pretty, 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 blah, 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 full of parasites. 1 zillion, bazillion little organisms trying to eat each other's energy, trying to just steal energy so they can lay more eggs and make more little wigglies. And they're proud to be a supporting member, of the Make More Worm Club. I mean, so obviously, like I said, this isn't. How can that logic can't be defeated as just plain logic, and the only way they can defeat it is with some complete nonsense, either some religious fable that we're doing something more than scheming to find, ways to fill holes, in fun and convenient ways, and nothing more, but they'll pretend it's a much more, there's a lot more going on here. This is, and it's all delusion. It's just, like I said, we're sailing on a junky Titanic tugboat of, barges of garbage, and they're just pretending it's the good ship Lollipop, and, it's 4 stories high, and ballrooms and bullshit, and, like it somehow makes sense, and it doesn't make any sense at all. It's just a bunch of addictions. You come into the world with hungry, essentially, and you never get over it. There's never enough food. You just every day, where's more? I need more stuff. More. I need more comforting. Please comfort me some more, because I have all kinds of deficits. You just keep crying for attention, and yeah, so they've played the game. They've been a consumer, and I guess they have to rationalize to themselves that they're playing a good game, that it makes sense to be one of these monsters, one of the sharks. They have to justify sharking, and so they just make a bunch of rationalizations to say, well, I certainly am doing a good thing, so I'm a good guy, so even if I am a shark, too bad. Being a shark must be great because I'm great. So obviously sharking is great. And it's just complete bullshit. It's just made up crap to sit there and defend your own life with a bunch of nonsense. When all your life was, all it represented is a bunch of fucking need. I want. That's all you're made out of. You have these deficits, these sense of I'm deprived, I don't have sufficient, my comfy chair isn't comfortable enough, my throne isn't high enough, haven't achieved what I should be, some notion, and it just manufactures in these people some gross excuse to say it's all okay. Who cares what it costs? I'm busy. I want to get to my throne before I'm dead, and I really don't want to hear all this nonsense about how this costs anything. And if it's fun for me to make little babies so I can play with them and somehow pretend, makes me cool or something, I don't know. I mean, obviously most intelligent people aren't falling for that as much as they used to. And, but, obviously the not so smart people are falling for it. They think it's an accomplishment, to be a Frankenstein monster maker. And then they think that their children will just automatically have character and be great people, when they have every statistical reason to recognize that they might be drug addicts and criminals and liars and thieves and cheaters and lots of things. just as likely. Unless you have a plan to create character, you're probably not going to do it. Because it's a complex thing, not a simple thing. Well, it's certainly a complex thing in the sense that unless you already have character. And if you already had character, then you would have apprehension about having children in the first place. If you had character, you would have realized, ooh, this is one hell of a responsibility I've gotten myself into. You wouldn't have enjoyed it, and you certainly wouldn't be suggesting other people do it. Because you would know what a horrible responsibility it is, creating a fully useful human being, a productive one. Not so easy, because you're working with pretty shitty material. Ape, apes are, they're needy and wanty, and they will compromise often. But they know, the right and wrong become kind of irrelevant when need gets strong enough. They lose sight of their intelligence. And like I said, it's only when somebody has some kind of character where they have enough inhibitions and fear of failure to avoid making a mess. Yeah. So there's just, you can just go on and on, but it's all this psychology, really. And, I really have to be able to, like I said, it's been in the period of constructing arguments, and I guess what I really should be doing is constructing a script, a fable, a story, that, feeds people their philosophy in the chunks they need it fed to them in the medium they need it fed, because direct engagement is too hostile. Their brain doesn't like this. Oh, you're preaching at me. Oh, you're judging me. Oh, where if you tell a story, the story might be judging you, but you don't know it till it's way too late. The story might be humiliating you, and you just don't know it because it'll catch you. You'll be hoisted on your, oh, I'm just like that character, and all of a sudden, that character becomes an asshole, and you have to accept, oh, gee, I'm an ass, that kind of thing. Anyway, so obviously, the Shakespeare idea works now. I mean, even Shakespeare is all rather dark. There's no, there's a lot of unhappy endings, and even those plays didn't have an impact because they're just not even, they're not even a dramatic enough display of the tragedy. So, like a story like Romeo and Juliet, where everything just is ruined, right? I mean, all the good characters killed. All of them are dead, and there's the lessers are left behind to just mourn what they let slip through their fingers, with their bigotries and their nonsense, with their terribly unimportant concern. Yeah, but it's and these are all kind of metaphors or analogies to things that happen in our real lives, and how it's all so fragile, just so and just so sad. In the movie Romeo and Juliet, they did a really good version of it in 1964. Olivia Hussey. Anyway. And so they have a song in the background. I don't know. I don't know where it came from originally. But it's this little spiel about the rose and how its beauty fades and it dies. And again, very tragic. But the funny part is this is in a very romantic scene. So the romance between Romeo and Juliet is this beautiful music, but the lyrics, when you listen to them, I mean, it's horribly sad. But right in the middle of all this sadness is this lust and passion and beauty. They're in the rose phase. And so in the rose phase, you don't even hear the words. Your petals are going to fall off. They're going to turn brown, and the whole thing is going to slip right through your fingers. So not even hearing, and your brain doesn't even make the connection. That it's telling you basically, don't do it. It's a trap. It will ruin you. Your love will kill you, because you're going to have to watch the rose die. You're going to have to watch the beauty fade. And that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. The sadness will be deep and hollow and dank. It will be a deep well you're going to fall into. And you won't breathe good air or feel the sun ever again. Kind of thing. The world will always be changed. And so it's all in there already, right? All these things have been constructed, and it doesn't affect people because it's not a direct enough, I guess. I mean, you really have to have some character in the story to actually explain. See, look how it turns out. It's always going to turn out bad. Even if the thing works out between Romeo and Juliet, one of them's going to get cancer. One of them is going to get harmed or hurt or ruined. And the other one's going to have to watch it. So you're not even going to have the ruined part of the person who gets ruined, but you're going to have the pain of the person who won't be able to fix it. The thing he cherishes most in the universe is going to be tormented and tortured, and he will have no power, or she, to do anything about it. That doesn't scare these people. How do they miss it? How does it disconnect? But it obviously does. Like I said, they get so distracted by the beauty that they just don't see the parasites eating it. They just don't get that it's going to be such a brief part of the game, where everything is perfect and candlelights and warm and everybody feels good and everything's comfortable. You're just not going to have too many of those everything went right things. You're going to have a lot of not so good, far from perfect. A lot of potentially, if you get the bad straw, if the dice roller rolls badly, you're really in for some shit. So the theme, so again, it's difficult because this really isn't about having a rational conversation with the human race. It's about having to unlock all their biases and prejudices. It's about first liberating them to even think, realistically and practically, and without this constant from their perspective, because they think they have control. They think they're immune. And so, they have to be, somehow you have to first educate them to the sense that this immunity doesn't translate to the thing you're throwing into the world. It will not have immunity. It will be subject to statistical averages. And I mean, taking those risks is obnoxiously arrogant. I mean, it's probably some better word. There's lots of better phrases. I actually, in a video the other day, one of the physics videos, I said brain deabled. People are brain deabled. I liked it. It just sounded funny. But yes, it's a real idea. That they have insufficient foundational knowledge to be able to even judge a potential fact. They're just they barely get the concept of up, down, left, right, forward, back. They don't quite have those even in the right directions. They barely have any sensible perspective on what we're doing here, or how we got here, or what the game is, and how it's all this stupid head game. It's all, you're just running a bizarre version of reality, where you've added a bunch of, you've added a me and a they and them, and all kinds of crap about purposes and functions, and what winning is, and all that kind of crap. And they have nothing to do with reality. They have nothing to do with the fact that you just live and you die, and in between you have these experiences. And the real point is to get as much comfy chair as you can, and as little uncomfortable cancer as you can, and try to just, maximize how much time you spent in a state of tranquility, pleasure, gaining satisfaction at very low cost, at very low risk, very efficient gratification, a warm bath, pretty cheap, a pretty good bit of relaxation at a very low risk and price. So, that's probably enough. Yeah, no point. Well, there's always a point. Yeah, no point in, yeah. But there's no point, just because I'm talking mostly to the belligerently opposed, or the completely supportive. So it's like there's no, there's no convertibles in the range of my voice, and that's a real problem. And so I got to work on that. And so that's part of this whole thing, is that the fact is, if you do theater, it has two advantages. The first advantage is you sneak the philosophy in, and the other advantage is people enjoy theater. So they don't enjoy deliberately thinking about philosophical questions. They like accidentally tripping over them in storylines in which they get invested. So first they want to think about being the Jedi and solving problems, and they really won't worry about the fact that, oh yeah, that life doesn't seem very good either. Because they'll be too caught up in just Jediing to recognize that, gee, this story kind of sucks. Everybody dies again, and it's all pretty horrible, and planets get blown up, and all, not very. If that's what winning is, I'd really hate to see what losing looks like. Because winning sure looks like losing to me. Oh, no. But obviously it works. Yeah, I just had the final scene in that Titanic movie that all the chicks loved. Because, they're child molesters apparently. But anyway, it's so bad, such a bad movie. But again, a movie just, the ending just, oh yeah, bye, see ya. What? Does it make any sense? And then you come back 80 years later and throw a necklace in the water or something, and everything's okay, right? You drowned, I didn't. I was only sad for a little while. Is that how it would work for you? You could lose your true love, your soulmate, your everything, and just go marching through the game like, didn't hurt at all. I'm fine. I'm okay. No. So anyway, that turtle doesn't know what it's doing. I'm laying eggs. I'm rolling dice with little turtle futures. Doesn't know any of that. We can know, so we can do better. Even the turtle is, careful about where it lays the eggs. It tries a bunch of different places, and if they're not quite right, no. Very careful about nesting. Humans, not careful at all. No. They'll fart it out right on the pile of shit. Right on a pile of shit. So anyway. Alright. Not sufficient video considering my less than satisfactory condition. So we'll go with it. Hopefully. Hopefully it recorded. So anyway. Hopefully I was in the screen better than that. Well, it probably wasn't. But that's just part of the charm of an inmendham video. It's the fact that I don't do them very well sometimes, technically. This camera's just a pain in the ass to get in the right position. Anyway, so now I'm in the right position, pretty much. But it doesn't really matter. So, till the next time. And such. That's all I can say. I'll work on it. Yeah, I'm working on it. Whatever. Doing the best I can, apparently. I hope to do better. There, that's it. That's the phrase. I hope to do better. There. Yeah, seems fair enough a statement. Can't promise anything, but anyway, until next time.